Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Cup of Joy. I'm your host, Ariana Joy Christie, and I am so glad that you are here. This is a space to inspire, to learn, to grow, and to challenge. Get ready to fill your cup and spread a little joy along the way. Okay, Brynta, content creator, body confidence advocate, welcome to Your Cup of Joy.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is amazing. I'm excited for this.
I'm so excited because I've been following you for quite a long time, especially through like kind of my postpartum journey. And it's so funny. I was talking to my partner this morning and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm having Brynta on the podcast today. And he's like, oh, and I'm like, it's that girl. Okay. So I first saw you in person, like in real life at a Shine event.
Okay.
And I never, ever, ever get like, oh my gosh, look at anybody. And I was like, oh my God, look. I was so excited to meet you.
Okay, I totally understand that feeling, but I'm always like, okay, please say hi. Because especially in this like industry too, like it's nice to like just connect with people and like make friends, especially if they're in a very similar they're doing similar things that you are and they understand what your platform is. I just, oh my God, I wish you would have said hi.
I did. I was like, oh my gosh, hi. But I didn't tell you like, oh, I'm fangirling so
Oh,
hard. I just was
okay.
like,
So then I
hi.
have the memory of
You're
a
sweet.
goldfish. And we didn't have a long conversation, I feel like, because I would have absolutely remembered that. And
It
trust
was
me,
short.
I know.
Short but sweet.
I love
But
it.
I'm so grateful to now have connected with you. And I feel like I've gotten to know you a little bit better. And I just feel like you are such a light in this online space. And that's why I'm so happy to have you here today because um yeah, you speak to this online platform in such a beautiful way that is fun and funny and lighthearted, but still deep and meaningful. And that balance is like incredible. So
Thank you for calling me funny.
you are hilarious.
From the beginning, I've always like, I think in the very, very beginning, if you look back, oh, please don't look back, but if you do look back at like the earlier stuff, I didn't really know how to like show up. I just knew that I was going through something and I just wanted to put it out there. And
Mhm.
very quickly, because there was no one who really looked like me. And for my culture that we're having those conversations, especially about like body confidence and self
Mm,
love, um, it was very strange to be myself on the internet, especially because
totally.
it's so vulnerable. And if someone
Very.
doesn't like something you say or do, you're like, "Oh my god, they don't like me." Like, I'm putting my humor, my story, my style out there. It's
Mhm.
more vulnerable than people think it is. So, the fact that you said that made me feel so good because I'm always questioning it a little bit, but I think now I found my groove with it and just showing up
Love
online
it.
to just be like myself, and if it offends people, then I'm so sorry.
Then who cares? Yeah. So you talk a lot about like body positivity, body confidence, and it's something that many people struggle with. I've been struggling with it literally my whole life. And recently I even stumbled upon these like journal um entries that I had written as like a teen and like old conversations and messages I had with friends back then. And the way I spoke about myself and the things that I thought about myself, like it's hard when you're an adult now and you have your own feelings. Like you don't look back as much and think like, where was I at that time in my life? And it's actually so sad because I was like a smaller built, tall, like athletic girl. And still I hated every piece of my body. And so it's interesting to me, and a reflection I made this week is that it's not actually, it doesn't have anything to do with how we actually look. Like it's actually all in our head of how we feel. And that's where the body confidence comes from, which is so wild, but like a huge realization I recently had. So, can you maybe share with us why you started sharing about body confidence online and how that kind of came to be?
So it's kind of like an awkward story. So at the time, it was the beginning of COVID, and I had just lost my job, but I had also just gotten engaged. So my immediate thought with getting engaged was, I have to lose weight. I have to get like ready for the wedding. What was it called? It's called shedding for the wedding, I think is what they call it. Um, so I immediately started. That's the first thing I did. I shared it online, maybe for like a few weeks, I think. And as my relationship with my body changed, when I realized, okay, I'm not going about this the right way, I started sharing that journey online, just of
Mhm.
me recognize my body, recognizing its changes, being just kinder to it and more accepting of it in this phase of life, especially because we were going through COVID. Like there was so much going on. It was such a new experience for me. Um,
Mhm.
but as I started sharing those changes online, I found very quickly that it really connected with people, and I loved that it did. There was also, again, like nobody who looked like me that was doing it. I'm Tamil, so I grew up in the South Asian community where self love is not a thing. You don't grow up with these like affirmations. You don't grow up like being taught to journal or talking about therapy or mental health or anything. And especially as women, you're taught to look a certain way or to change so that you can look that way. So I spent
Mm.
my entire life wanting to be more fair skinned, which is not something you can even control, but as a child, I thought I could, and just thinner. So whenever anything big would happen, my immediate reaction, like getting engaged, was that's what I have to do. And
Oh.
sharing that online felt so natural and so normal until I realized that it wasn't, because I had all these people saying, well, no, this is my journey too. I connect with you in this way through your acceptance of your body. I need to hear these messages. I need to hear them from you specifically because this is how I grew up as well.
Mhm.
And so I started to lean into that a little bit. And then again, like with the whole personality thing, trying to make it my own, trying to show up as authentically as I possibly can and just make it like a conversation or like a little best friend sort of environment, I think.
Totally. And I think that's so incredible that you were able to show up for other people who related to you. And it's like the way that you're even wording it is like you really had that purpose from people reaching out or people messaging you and telling you that. I just think that's so incredible and so powerful too. Because you do, as somebody who shares online, you do have like almost a responsibility sometimes, I believe, to portray things in a way that is real, to not be fake, to not like put out things that are unachievable or unrealistic. And so the fact that you were there for your community is incredible.
And I love that you said that too, because like I started out in a bigger body and now I've lost weight and now I've changed and people immediately notice that. And I felt like, I guess the word I'm going to use is bad at first, even though it was something I needed to do for myself and I did it in a very healthy way. But I spent
Mhm.
months and months not talking about it. I think it was only like this month that I actually started talking about it openly,
Yeah.
because I was going through my own private journey and not just with my body, but just in life in general. There
Mhm.
was so much going on, so many big changes happening. I felt a responsibility to wait till the right moment to have those conversations and to have them not just in like a lighthearted way, but an actual, like honest, transparent, vulnerable way. Because, things are funny and it's nice to show up for your besties and, make these jokes online. But especially because I started out in the body positive community, I felt so guilty for not talking about it for so long. And I felt like when I did have that conversation, it needed to be honest and just like healthy and balanced. I think it's such a tricky conversation to have about like weight loss online. Um, there are people putting out misinformation. There's people putting out things that are just so unachievable and unhealthy. And
Mhm.
everyone's body is different. But what I wanted to do was wait, wait till the right moment, and B, just be as honest and vulnerable as possible and just make sure that people who were listening to me, who were watching me, watched me still show up authentically, even though this big change had happened.
Yeah. And I think you have done such a good job of doing that. And the fact that you even think outside of just like the one piece of it, like you're talking about the healthy ways, like your own personal journey apart from weight loss, like there are all different pieces that fall into place. And it's just funny to me that people only go with what they see. Like,
Oh,
oh, we've watched her lose weight. Like they don't think about what's going on in your mind or in your life or what other things are happening. So,
the assumptions that come with having a platform is that it's so easier that everything you put out there is exactly what you say it is, and there's a weird balance you have to have as a creator of what I'm going to share and be transparent about and where I'm going to set those boundaries. Because
mhm,
the second I think I lost like maybe like 10 pounds, people noticed and they were like, oh, she's on Ozempic, oh, she's on this, oh, she's on that, and I was like,
always.
or like
Yeah.
I was going through a divorce and people were like, it's stress weight loss, and I was like, this is, I get that, but ironically it's the healthiest I've ever been.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that either, and I was like, "Do I say something? Do I comment?" Because there's, like, hundreds of comments, and I'm not gonna respond to every single one of them.
No.
It takes a toll on your mental health, but finding that balance, I find as a creator, to just show up online and not my thing is, like, I'm a people pleaser, and I don't ever wanna let anyone down, and but you have this, like, huge community of hundreds of thousands of people. You're like, "Somebody's gonna get let down." You
Of
can't
course.
please everybody. You can do your best, you can
Mhm.
make sure you show up with the best intentions, but other than that, you're not gonna make everyone happy.
And that's a hard thing to let go of because I'm a people pleaser too, and, like, I think I struggle with that every day. It is difficult, for
It is,
sure.
and I didn't think it would play a part in this job. Like, I talk about it in therapy all the time, and I'm like,
Yeah.
now I have to talk about my job in therapy and how I show up, and I was like, "This is so straight. I never had to do this before."
Yeah.
Like, in a 9 to 5 job, I get that there are people-pleasing moments within, like, especially within a corporate job if you're trying to, like, climb the ladder and you wanna look good, of course, but this is your life. You're sharing your personal life and yourself online. It can, if you don't handle it properly and if you don't manage those emotions, I feel like you're just gonna end up showing up the wrong way, and it's not gonna end up helping anybody anyway.
Yeah.
But it is really nonstop, and that's the hardest part, I think, is that there's no off button. Last night, I've had a few late nights in a row, and I've also just mentally not been in, like, an awesome place, and that's exhausting in itself. And so last night, I put the kids to bed. They go to bed at, like, 7:30, and I laid down on my bed thinking, like, "Oh, I'll just take, like, 5 minutes," and I didn't wake up till the next day, like, this morning. And then I was like, "Oh my first thought, like, how silly it was, "Oh, shoot, like, I didn't show up online. Like, are people gonna be like, 'Oh, no'" like, it's so dumb that I had planned to do something and yeah,
But you know what's great about that is that those are often the moments, those, like, random things that happen, kind of moments where you're just having a human experience.
yeah,
And at those moments, when you show up later on to tell those stories, that's what connects the most with people. Like, I've done that
so
before.
true.
I'm gonna post something today, guys, or then something happens, or I'm gonna wake up, something happens, and I'll tell them the next day, and they're like, "Oh my god, me too." On that, or how did it, like, it's
Yeah.
really strange that you plan all these things. Like, I'm a Virgo, I like to plan. It's strange how you plan.
Yes.
And you know what? It's life that just sort of gets in the way, and it's those moments that, like, really connect with people, I find.
Totally, for sure, and it was so funny because this morning my husband was like, "Oh, you must feel, like, so rested and recovered." I was like, "I literally feel the exact same."
Oh,
Like, no,
I don't have kids, but that has to be a mom thing, 'cause I
it has to be.
if I fell asleep at 7:30, oh, I would love that.
I was like, "What is wrong with" like, normally I'm in bed at, like, 11:30. Like, I was like, "Something is wrong with me."
It caught up with you, it's okay,
It
sometimes you
did.
forget.
Totally. I know that sharing online too, like we're talking about how that is for other people, but I think it impacts you too. Like sharing has impacted me greatly through many of the things that I've gone through, especially postpartum. Can you maybe share how sharing has helped you or been there for you, like on your side? Or
It's
if it hasn't?
it's but it's been in a it's helped me in a way that I was like, "Oh, I wish I didn't have to learn those lessons so publicly."
Mm.
That's me, I like to learn a lesson, and because I share my life online, all the lessons, because, like, I remember, and I'll talk about this openly, because if there are people who were around earlier on when I first moved out and was separated, they probably remember this, but I shared something in a really bad spot post separation, and
Mm.
I was in a horrible mental place. I was broken down, and it was something had happened, and I shared it online that I should not have done. In the moment, I thought it was fine. I had like a 72-hour period where I was just like in my feelings and just not okay. 72 hours are up, and I'm like jolted awake, and I'm like, oh, I should not have shared that. I should not have done.
Oh.
It definitely taught me healthy boundaries. It taught me when it's okay to say things because they're helping people.
Mhm.
You're saying things or using your platform in a way that's just not only unhealthy but just irresponsible. It's also taught me that no matter, even if this is just about me and my dog, it affects other people no matter what. No matter what
Yeah.
I do, what I say will always affect my ex-husband, especially if I'm talking about that part of my life. It'll affect my family, it'll affect my friends.
Mhm.
There are all these little interconnected ways that you just have to be careful, I feel like, when you share things online, because it's there forever. People are watching, even if it's one person. They'll remember the
Totally.
things you say and do. They'll also remember the mistakes that you make as well.
Mhm.
I also have to and with that same lesson, I had a lot of people being like, well, because I came back out and like apologized for it. I told them that it would never happen again. Like,
Oh.
I let people know that this was not my page. That's You're not going to be here for like the tea. This is not going to be that kind of page, especially post divorce. I don't want it to be like that. But I had a lot of people messaging me saying it's okay, like
Mm.
in a good way, but also in a bad way of sort of like egging me on a little bit of like, you deserved your moment and this and that. And I was like, no, I don't want to be I want to be held accountable.
Mm.
So
Totally.
it becomes a little bit dangerous when you have like it's great to be supported, but I also
Yeah,
want to be able to like in sharing things, be able to think for myself and separate myself from all these like wonderful people too.
for sure.
To make sure that I'm making the right decisions for myself.
Totally. And I think even, yeah, the fact that you can realize that and vocalize that, I think is incredible too.
I, I always want to be self aware.
Yeah.
In the right moments though, like when you catch yourself too late, you're like, oh, but I'm
Shit.
learning that it's
Yeah.
okay. You forgive yourself, you move on. I think if I was a
Totally.
teenager and I had made that mistake, I'd like be a lot more. I'd be harder on myself. I'd be a lot more. It'd be a lot more dangerous.
Mm.
Now I'm 30, and you talk about it. You go to therapy, and you move on, and it's all you can.
That's true.
It's all you can do.
Yes. Yes. Recently you had a post that I absolutely loved. I think I even shared it because it just like was so impactful to me. And it said a whole bunch of these different sayings. Things like she deserves happiness because she's skinny. She is my favorite auntie because she has a flat stomach. Um, talk to her because her skin is even toned. And then at the end it said no one ever. And it was just so real to me and impacted me so much because those are all very similar things that I have said to myself. But when I reflected, no one has actually ever said to me. Like it's always me saying it, not other people. So we tell ourselves these lies or these untruths, and they sometimes can really eat away at us, like they have for me for years. And so, how do we change this mindset and really realize that these things are not actually true?
The thing that helped me the most was remembering and telling myself that nobody cares. This sounds so mean, but nobody cares about your body as much as you do.
Literally.
Literally, literally, you think they do. You think they're watching you. You think that they sit up at night or
Yeah.
one comment does not mean that someone is obsessing about the way that you look.
Yeah.
Trust me more than you do because you're living in this body. You're seeing it every day. You're dressing it every day. But that thought process of okay, they don't care, so I shouldn't. And even if they do,
Hmm.
'cause there are some people out there you can't control them.
Yeah.
Even if they do, you can't change them.
Totally.
It's so hard to wrap your head around it. I know it's easier said than done, but taking that with me, especially when I leave the house in like a certain outfit that makes me feel a certain way, or if it's
Mhm.
very like it's risque for me, maybe. Um, I walk with that in my head all
I
day
love
long,
that.
all night long, and I have to. Otherwise,
Yeah.
like you said, it'll eat at you.
It really, really does. I remember something that was said somewhere that has stuck with me always is the way you look is the most uninteresting thing about you.
Yes, I love that. I love that saying so much. Oh my god.
Yeah. And it's hard to always remember that. Like sometimes I really do think, oh, everybody must be looking at me or they must be looking at this piece of me that I felt bad about that day. But it really, nobody is.
I had to tell myself that so many times in like going back into the dating world because I hadn't dated in like
Yes.
I don't think I've ever dated like this in my entire life. Like I met my ex-husband when I was 19. Before that, it was just
Oh
like
my gosh.
high school. Like I've never actually dated like this before.
Yeah.
And so, going into it with my changing body, with all of these things that I'm still saying to myself, with the same like body insecurities that I've always had,
Hmm.
I had to change my mindset about how I like look at my body and how I talk to myself, especially. And so that I remember saying that to myself so many times, like especially before first dates, especially before even like not just first dates, but meeting new people, making new friends for the first time, going to
Yeah.
events. Like what you look like is the least interesting thing about you. You're smart, you're funny. Look what you've done with your life. Look what you've become.
Yeah.
Like, you're a good friend. Those things, those little things they matter. They lift you up, especially in those like very, very nervous, anxious moments where you have to put yourself out there and you think that it's all about what you look like, but it really isn't.
It's not.
It's not.
Yeah. I'm going to keep that reminder top of mind this week, I think. Switching gears a little bit, we've touched on this a bit, but I want to talk to you a little bit about your divorce, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, let's go.
I know divorce can be challenging, and also transformative. I've heard from people, from friends especially. How has going through this process shaped who you are today?
Ooh, that's a good question. We should probably start with that question. Um, it's definitely made me like this sounds. It's made me a lot more gentler with myself, kinder with
Oh.
myself, which sounds a little bit selfish because it is a process between two people. But I left, and this is no tea, no shade, but like I left that relationship very just hard on myself, hard on everybody around me.
Mhm.
I think I just become very in like my masculine energy, and I know a lot of women will understand that. And I left feeling like, especially throughout these last few months, just being softer with myself, with the way life goes, with my friends and family. Like I respond to things so much differently now than
Mm.
I did before anything had happened. Um, and I make this joke all the time. I'm like, well, after the big D, you don't stress about very much. And it's a joke that I make with myself because even though it was amicable and good and like so easy, and like we're friends and it's fine,
Mhm.
it's like even an amicable divorce is still divorce. It's still hard.
Totally.
Your life is it's, I did a complete 180. Your life is completely transformed.
Yep.
I had no idea what to do with myself, and so I focused on myself. I did a lot of like inner work that I definitely needed to do,
Mhm.
um, and I'm glad that coming out of that, it's I can say now that it's made me softer and just able to be kinder with myself.
That's beautiful. Oh my gosh, I love that. I also know from personal experience that change can often lead to growth and self-discovery through like big impactful things in my life. I feel like I've always at least had one big like learning lesson or one big thing that changed kind of how the way I approach life and other situations. So, what's one thing that through this you've maybe learned about yourself?
Ooh, that I'm. Oh, this sounds like such. This sounds like a very cliche answer, but
That's okay.
hope everyone who goes through anything like this, any big change in their life, can take this with them because I used to be so afraid of change.
Mhm.
You're so much stronger than you think you are.
Oh.
I, especially after that little breakdown moment, like when I first moved out, I was ready to just like give it all up and break down and lean into all the sadness and anger and like nothing's good gonna, like it's so easy to lean into those negative thoughts and like that dark place that you're in, especially when you're in them.
Mhm.
Um, but change can be really great. It can be really transformative if you let it be. And like, look, if it's a change like my change where it's sad and it's divorce, and what I've learned is that you can like go through all that. You can lean into those feelings a little bit, and it's okay to do that.
Mm.
But I picked myself up at a time when I really needed to. And look, it's not like great every single day. I'm not like perfectly happy every single day. You're gonna have
Of
ups and
course.
downs. Healing is not linear, but I hope if people are going through big changes, they give themselves a little bit of grace and God are just able to like be easy on themselves because that's what I was able to do. And I take it with me a little bit more every day. And I'm so much happier for it, honestly.
That's incredible. I think showing yourself grace is something that like people say and is actually very hard to do. But once you do, like even if it's just a little bit each day,
Yeah.
it makes a huge difference. And I also think like being gentle and loving to yourself can go hand in hand with also still feeling sad. Like you can still feel like a and hold space, I guess, for your feelings about any situation and any change. But it can still have a positive outcome.
Which I love too. So the way I started looking at things, I think this was like a Kendall Jenner like sound on TikTok where she's talking about like that little girl. She learned about her inner child work in therapy, and there's a sound
Mhm.
on TikTok going around, and I heard it, and I was like, I heard it during the process of this big change for myself, and I was like, I'm not going to respond how that little girl's going to respond. 'Cause she would be like a little angry. She'd want to cling to certain things. She'd want to feel love. She'd do certain things and say certain things to feel that love, even though it wouldn't be good for her.
Mhm.
What I'm going to do is do things that are going to be better for her in the long run.
Hmm.
That if she looked forward at me now, would be proud to say, "Wow, this is who I grew up to be." And I try, like that little girl was like, it's such a sad little thought to think of who we were and how we grew up and all those like
Totally.
sad little moments. But I love thinking back now or looking at it now and being like, okay, well, that little girl would be so proud of me.
Oh, that actually is so incredible. And it's a hard thing to think, like, especially if you've gone through anything as a child or as a kid, or you look back, like when I was reading those messages from when I was a kid and thinking of those feelings, like as a child or a teenager, it is kind of devastating
Yeah,
part of the time. Like, especially if you are kind of in a better place now and happy with where you are and, in this life that you maybe never thought you would be living.
that's what it is.
But then it actually is so beautiful to give that perspective too.
I love it too. And I love that thinking of that little girl is always so emotional. I've been meaning to like put a photo of me as a kid, like on my little mirror. I have like little sticky notes that I put affirmations on and I have them in my
Oh,
mirror. So I'm like, I'm gonna put a little picture of me as a little girl
yes.
just for like that constant reminder and make it like if you did have sad experiences like we were talking about as kids, like just to make it a little bit more positive,
Totally.
a little bit
Yeah.
it's uplifting in a way too.
That's so beautiful. I'm gonna have to go find a little photo of myself too.
I think your kids would love that.
I think they would too, because so we practice affirmations in my house all the time with the kids since they were babies. Like before they could talk, I would always say these same 4 affirmations, and now it's made itself to be, I think, 6 or 8. But now they know it. Like sometimes at night, like this is so silly, but I was nursing my daughter 2 nights ago, and she like stopped feeding and looked at me and said like, "I'm strong, brave, kind, loved." I was like, my
Oh
heart.
my gosh.
Like, it's so sweet to really see them, like, knowing these things and believing them.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that
Yeah.
that's like in her headspace, like she's just feeding, and
Yeah,
that's what's going on in her head. Like it could be for me, certainly as a kid, like it wasn't that positive in my head all the time. So
totally.
what you're the environment that you raise your children in and what you help them with at such a young age. Oh my god, I love that.
It is really, really incredible. And so I think, from like the innocence of a child, it is much easier to instill that in them. But us now as adults, like we still need to know those things, but instilling them and teaching them when we already have our core beliefs like
Yeah,
made is so much more difficult and takes so much more work. So I'm going to put sticky notes up and a photo of myself as a kid.
it helps with the unlearning. The unlearning thing is something that I've had to like. It's it's hard because you have to like
So hard.
take a hard look yourself in the mirror and be like, well, okay, you did this. This happened because you let it happen or because you were doing certain things. And okay, so how do I unlearn that? How do I stop that from happening again? How do I make better choices? So,
Yeah.
gosh, all of that, it's a lot of work, but it's worth it once you figure it all out.
So worth it. And I think it does go back to you sharing things online and putting that out there too, because other people will take that and learn. Like if you don't have something that's really, showcasing or showing it to you that like, hey, this is what I should do. I should be telling myself these affirmations. Like it seems a little silly when you start. Like I'm not a kid. But I think it's important.
It absolutely is. And I think it, it makes it a little bit more digestible too, in a way too. Saying those things to like as yourself an adult can be it can feel kind of silly.
Yeah.
And look, if you can do that, I've tried doing it before, and sometimes I feel a little bit silly. But I say it to a little girl, and I'm like, this feels easier. It feels, um, I don't know, like it's obviously emotional,
Mhm.
but it feels like more meaningful. And I love that it's a whole new experience too. Like I've said, I've tried affirmations my whole life, but saying them with that little girl in mind,
Mhm.
it gives me something to look forward to as well. And again, it's very uplifting.
Totally. And it's so special. I love that. I know that many people who are going through a divorce often feel alone. It's something that is not easy to talk about, not easy to share, sometimes feels shameful. Like there are so many different emotions that I've talked to other people going through divorce about. What is one piece of advice that you would give someone who's currently facing a divorce?
Oh, I get asked this all the time.
Do you?
I do. My DMs are filled with women who are contemplating
Oh,
it or have gone through it or are still going through it and like are in the same phase of it as I am.
hmm.
Oh, it's like a therapy session in my DMs right now. It's it's
Oh,
really emotional sometimes to open my DMs and I have to take like to make boundaries with myself sometimes. So
yeah.
with going through it and healing it.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's the same advice when it comes to anything, when it comes to like body confidence or anything. It's just give yourself some grace. If you're
Mhm.
making a decision that's good for you. Like people often forget, especially when they're in relationships too. you're allowed to make decisions that are healthy for you as an individual and good for you. And if being in a situation didn't help you grow, if it's making you a lesser version of yourself, if you're unhappy, it's okay to make that decision for yourself. Like,
Totally.
there's nothing wrong. I mean, I feel like some people are going to take this out of context. I don't think there's anything wrong with being divorced. It's hard, and it's a concept that, especially as women, you're made to sort of feel like a failure, which I hated. I hated that feeling of like failing at something.
Totally.
But give yourself a little bit of grace, especially in the moment when you're going through it. The first year and a half, I feel like it's going to be really, really tough.
Mhm.
But go easy on yourself and go easy on the people around you too. I feel like no one's going to think of your situation specifically as you have. I found myself explaining my situation to
Oh.
friends and family a lot, people who
Mhm.
just didn't understand. Um, but I had to start being a little bit more open minded with the people around me too, and just say, okay, they're not divorced or they don't understand, and that's perfectly okay.
Mhm.
I can do what I can to explain it to them, but maybe I won't lean on those people. Maybe I'll find different people to lean on, and you'll find your core group of people to settle in with as this process goes along. And I did, thankfully. Um, but I learned very early on, especially as you need that support, to find the people that are going to help push you forward and not make you question your decision.
That is such a good perspective. And I think, you talked about having these people pleasing tendencies too. I think if you are a people pleaser, then putting yourself first and knowing that it's okay to be selfish sometimes is so, like, just that much more difficult. So
Oh
I
my God,
think that is the thing.
selfish. That's like, oh, I gotta put that on my mirror. It's okay to be selfish sometimes.
Yes, it is.
This
In
is, and
fact, it's important.
it really is, and especially like I didn't have kids involved with my divorce, but if you do, you have a whole other generation. You have these little babies looking up to you, and
Mhm.
they're not watching just your relationship. They're watching how you treat yourself. They're watching how you're being treated. And God, if it's not right, make the best decision for you in the moment, and not because you think don't stay because you think other people are gonna be
It's
happy.
so, so true. Like, you model the behavior that your children one day will receive.
Yes,
And it's
exactly.
like, that's a huge responsibility, but I tell myself that every day. Like, the way that I talk to myself, the things that I say to myself, my kids are watching. Like, I even started when I put makeup on and my kids will ask, like, "Why are you putting makeup on?" I'll tell them, "Oh, mommy's just having a fun night." Like, it's a way that I express myself. Like, I don't say to look pretty,
I
you
saw
know?
I saw that and I was like, "Oh, I love that." I wish someone had said that to us. This next generation is gonna hopefully have a new perspective on all these little things, but
Yeah.
I hope they get to watch, us grow and us make these changes, not just in the decisions we make for ourselves in relationships, but as individuals, especially, and as we grow
Yes.
as individuals. I hope
Totally.
that our generation is gonna make a better impact on them, I hope.
Yeah, it's a huge responsibility to hold, but I feel like we're doing a good job as a whole. Um, this is kind of silly, but I find that sometimes I'm super inappropriate because I will have like a serious conversation and then can't stop laughing. Like if I see someone cry or like something's very serious, especially with my husband, I'm like, it's so like I'm like, is something wrong with me? Like I can't process emotions or something. Like this is messed up. And I was talking to my girlfriend about it who has a background in psychology. And she was like, well, humor is actually a very healthy coping mechanism. Like it could be way worse. And I was like, oh, thank God. Like sometimes I'm like, am I a psychopath? Like this is so bad. So yay, I'm not. This is great, like healthy. But have there been any funny or unexpected moments of humor during your post-divorce journey that you can share with us?
Oh god, so many.
See, healthy. That's good.
Oh my god, the divorce jokes just keep coming. They're so funny. I make them when I'm on dating apps. I'm not on them right now, but when I was, I loved making a good divorce joke. And I feel in the beginning, it felt a little bit inappropriate. I felt like there was something wrong with me. Like, why can't you take
Right?
it seriously? But I'm like, I took it seriously for so long, and there's still moments I take it serious. But you need that lightheartedness. You need to be able
Yeah.
to laugh at it. And like I have again, like your support group is very important, especially as you go through this.
Mhm.
My support group like sends me memes and funny. And like I remember, I think it was my cousin who sent me a meme once that was like, "Is there like a wedding party that you regret being a part of? And somebody responded and was like, yeah, my own. And I was like, that is so funny. If you have the understanding for it, like, it's so inappropriate, it's so dark, but it's my sense of humor. And so you find your
Yes.
people that like will help you again, like your friend, make you feel like you're not crazy.
Yes.
Like, humor is okay to lean on. Like I think we all need to have a little bit of Chandler from Friends in us.
Yes. Yes.
A little bit. It's a good balance.
Agreed.
But like my friends even threw me like a little divorce brunch.
I love.
They were so cute about it, and they like it's a part of just not taking life too seriously
Mhm.
when it comes to like these heavy moments. I think surrounding yourself with the right people and giving yourself permission to be a little lighthearted with yourself as well. Oh my god, it's so needed. You're not going to get through life without a little humor.
It's so very true. I love that. Switching gears a little bit, Your Cup of Joy is the title of this podcast. And it kind of came to be because I wanted to debunk the myth that self care is selfish. Um, because I just know that it's so important to prioritize self care so that you can show up as the best version of yourself, whether it's in a friendship or a relationship or as a parent or at work or anything. It's just so important. So, lately, you've been sharing a lot about self care, which I've been loving. And can you share with us maybe a little bit about what self care means to you?
Oh, it's so important. I am a type A person. Like I said, I'm a Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
The way that I will, like, even making an appointment to film this podcast, I spread myself too thin. I love doing it. I feel like I have to pack my days to feel productive, to feel
Mm-hmm.
worthy, to feel like I've done enough, especially because I'm not a parent. I don't have a relationship right now. I'm like, what are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your time?
Aw,
I pack it all on, and I don't give myself enough time for self-care. So I've really, really, really had to work on just like little moments, little pockets of peace of just like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and read for like, even if it's 15 minutes. I'm
totally.
gonna give myself that doom scrolling time of like 10 minutes. Like, I've had to organize that self-care time into my day,
Mm-hmm.
but it feels so good to even give myself just that permission to do it, to do something that makes you happy, that makes your day a little bit lighter. Like it is so important to me, and just for my mental health as well. Because
Totally.
like, if you're not taking time off, if you're not gonna be able to show up as the best version of yourself for whoever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I only have a dog, but if I'm not the best version of myself and I don't show up for her, like, she's not gonna be very happy either. I do have to keep her alive. So
Agreed. Yes.
it's very important, and I think that aspect of like permission, give yourself permission that like it's okay to just sit down to do something that gives you peace,
Yeah.
however long it may be, however many minutes you have in a day. Give yourself permission and just do it.
Yeah. I love that it can just be 15 minutes. Like sometimes people think like, "Oh, I have to go to the spa for an hour. I have to spend money. I have to take the time," but that's not the case.
No, and I used to think like that. I used to be like, it had to be this big thing. It had to be something I could like show off or like talk about. And I was like, no, today I sat down and I read for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And you know what, that made me happy.
Yeah.
Or I like took my dog for a walk in a little like pretty area, and I gave myself a little extra time to do that. It doesn't matter what it is, and this is something I've worked on in therapy as well, but like it doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter, as long as you show up for yourself and
Mhm.
you're happy with it, that's all that matters.
That's so, so true. And it is difficult when you are that kind of personality because I'm very similar. Like if I'm not doing something productive,
Yeah.
um, then I feel like I'm failing.
Yes.
And it's this very toxic trait that I have where I have to really be mindful of being like, no, this actually is beneficial because I'm going to be more productive when my cup is full.
Especially as a mother, I cannot imagine how tough that is for you to just.
So difficult.
I know, like everyone I know is a mother, and the conversations I have with them, I'm always like, it's easy for. It's funny because it's easy for me to remind them to take the time because they deserve it. But then when you talk about it with yourself, it's so hard to convince yourself that you deserve that same amount of time for yourself.
Yeah.
As a mother, oh my gosh, I have so much respect for you guys, and
Oh,
I
that's
can't
so kind.
imagine how hard it is.
It is wild, but it's funny that you say that because we really are like so hard on ourselves. We give grace to our friends. We want the best for them, but it's hard for us to do the same for ourselves. It's so funny.
I know, and like, I mean, I think that's just women, to be honest with you.
Agreed.
we're caretakers. That's how it is.
Yep, I totally agree. What is your favorite way to practice self-care?
Oh, since I've been living alone, there's so many. I want to say walks, and that sounds very basic and very
No, that's amazing.
like I feel like that sounds a little bit boring. People probably are going to expect me to say like skincare or something, but especially now that the weather is nice, I'm walking my dog like 3 times a day, and I live in like
Oh.
a little town, and it's so beautiful, and I love it. And I like have a podcast in, or I'm listening to music, and it's my time for me to just walk, to spend time with my dog, to like enjoy the outdoors, which is something I love as well. And I've never in my life, I think maybe I was thinking about this the other day. I don't think I've been able to just enjoy my time outside since I was a child. I
Oh.
stopped moving my body. I stopped doing things that I loved for so long. And now I get that time back. I get to do what I want to do, what feels good for me, and just taking some time to just walk and move my body and be outside. Like the other day, the leaves are starting to fall here.
Oh,
Yeah, like I know. I picked up like it was like a red little like maple leaf, and it was so pretty. I like picked it up, and I'm like, this makes me happy. Like
yeah.
this is my little moment. This
I
is
love that.
time, and I'm very happy with it. Honestly,
That's so good. There's something about being in nature and connecting to nature that actually is very healing.
it really is. And like
Yeah.
I'm eating right now, so I need that time. I need to go back to nature and connect with nature again after interacting with all these men.
That That's so good though. And I know you have been sharing about like being more intentional about moving your body, about getting exercise in. And I find myself too, like uh when I pre-children, I was working out at this gym, and on days when I was like angry or upset, or I'd call my husband. I think it was he was maybe my fiance then, and I'd be like grumpy. And one time he was like, "Have you worked out today?" And I was like, "How could you say that to me?" I was like so angry. He's like, "No, no, no, not because I think that you have to. Like you're happier when you do." And I was like, "Oh." The fact that you realize that like when I'm moving my body and making time to prioritize myself, I am happier was just such a like pinch me moment where I was like, okay, people around me are noticing. Like, I need to start noticing that about myself too.
I love that you have people around you. This is what you should have. People around you that are like mirrors for yourself. When you are in a down moment or in a moment where you can't really recognize yourself, it's important to have people around you that are like, well, here's who you are, and I'm going to remind you a little bit in the kindest,
Totally.
loving way possible. I love that.
Yeah, it's very important. And so I know that it can be sometimes hard to get back into routine. Like, I feel like since babies, I've not been moving my body. I've been not in the best mindset of being like, oh, if I'm not doing something productive when I'm away from my babies, like in terms of work, then I'm not doing the right thing. So I just haven't been holding space for that. And I find when you're in routine, it's easier because it's habit. But when you're not, it's very difficult to get back into that routine. So, for people who are maybe struggling with getting back into the routine, what's a piece of advice you can give them or
Oh,
me?
I love that because I say this all the time, but I'm living a completely different life than I did like a year ago. It was a complete 180 shift for me. So this routine is something I've never had before, but it didn't just come overnight. I like I started in very little ways when I wanted to implement healthier eating. It was like one healthier meal a day or like one
Mhm.
healthier ingredient, small baby steps. It doesn't have to be this big huge jump. And I'm the type of person that's like I need immediate gratification.
Story of my life.
I need it now.
Yes.
I was like so impatient with myself in the beginning, but I gave myself a month to make little tiny changes and then just grow on those little tiny changes. I
Amazing.
had better ingredients, better meals. If I wanted to change my style up, this was big for me too. When I wanted to change my style up, it was like one piece of clothing that I would like buy and like maybe not wear for a month, but just like lead into it a little bit more and more and more. Eventually, I'd wear it. Baby steps. It's all it takes.
I love that. I'm a very like all or nothing kind of person, and that's where I struggle. Like either
Oh,
I'm going to the gym 7 days a week for an hour and a half each time, or I'm not going at all.
mhm.
So I think that that baby step thing is something I need to practice, and very good advice.
All or nothing mindset. It'll get you.
It will. It's so hard to get out of that when you're in it.
And the guilt that comes with it. Like I literally, if I have an all or nothing day, and it turns out to be a overwhelming all or a underwhelming nothing, and you feel guilt either way. Oh, the journal entries that come with those. Your mind.
Yeah.
I look back at those and I'm like, "Oh, wow. I okay, so balance. Balance is important. Let's
Very.
balance next time. Maybe next time you don't book 12 things in one day, you, like, spread it out. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
absolutely okay."
Yeah. That is really good advice and manageable advice. Like, it is really manageable to implement 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, a
Yeah,
little bit of something for yourself where you can just be at peace and enjoying.
exactly, and
Yeah.
I find that, like, if it's not first of all, find something that you enjoy. Don't like, just because everyone's saying that you should meditate, doesn't mean you have to meditate.
Yes, I hate it.
Just
Yeah.
something to turn your brain off and get away from your phone is great. Write,
Agreed.
draw, color. Get a coloring book. I
Yeah.
coloring books.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. Yeah, I definitely need to implement small little pieces. You did a post recently about things that you've learned in your 30s, which I loved. Can you share maybe the most important thing that you've learned in your 30s that you're finding now? Because that can change, pieces of advice, ebb and flow based on your life. But right now, what is one thing that you took from your 30s and you're like, okay, this is it?
There's so many. I think I like wrote something down the other day too on my phone. I want to like open my phone and look at it. I oh my gosh. In my 20s, it's like I've 1 year of 30 under me, under my belt, which I think went well. Um, in my 20s, I think I was definitely it was the most people pleasing
Mm,
time of my life. I don't even know who I was. Like I
yeah,
was so unrecognizable. Now this I don't care mindset, like again, like it seems selfish, but having like an I don't care what you think of me mindset going into my 30s is even in this 1 year, it's changed everything for me.
that's
It's
amazing.
the way I dress, the way I interact with people. I had to end friendships. I
Mm,
did like a marriage, like it making those decisions under that mindset will feel selfish. It'll feel like you have a little bit of a big head. People will judge you for it. But taking that mindset with you, oh my God, it's the greatest thing I've ever learned. And I'm so proud of myself for sticking with it, especially in the tough moments and the hard decisions. I'm telling you.
That's incredible. And it's funny because I remember I said, "Who cares?" once, and I was like, "Wait, is that rude?" And then
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my God, the fact that I'm even thinking that that could be rude is wrong, you know? Like, no, we're allowed to be a little bit rude. We're allowed to be a little bit selfish. And if it's good for you, then really, who cares?"
It's not rude. It's just unfamiliar. It's not wrong.
Yes.
It's just unfamiliar.
It's not people pleasing. So we feel weird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, now I still like there was something that happened like a few weeks ago too, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make this decision, but it's not gonna be a people pleasing decision. It's gonna be the opposite of that, and it's gonna make me feel icky, and I felt icky about it for a week, but I did it. You
Good for you.
make those decisions, and more band-aid ripping in my 30s, I hope.
Amazing. I love it. So I want to talk a bit about your dating life because you have been sharing, and I have been very, very invested in this dating life. Can you share a little bit about your dating life, kind of where you're at? How's it going?
You're asking on a good week.
Hey.
It's I'm gonna film a little update
Oh,
after,
yay.
but yeah, it's good.
Good.
Like I said earlier, I deleted all my apps
Yeah.
recently,
Crazy.
and it was the first time that I deleted my apps for to focus on a boy, to focus on one person. Yeah,
Whoa.
boy was always like I'm taking breaks, and look, this is very new, and it's very like who knows, like this is dating. But so far so good.
Oh my gosh.
I think this is the best dating has gone for me. Here's the thing though, like I spent a lot of months like not really I was having fun is what I like to say. And I
Yep.
gave myself the grace. I don't care what people think about that. Cause like sometimes you just need that time to just not focus on relationships and just have
Mm.
your fun. But I in the last like few months, actually I'd say like the last few weeks, um, I've been really focused on like finding a partner, like finding a relationship. Cause
Aw.
I realized like that's who I am. Like fun was fun when I was like in a bad place. Now I'm like I'd like to share my life with somebody. I'd like to have
Yeah.
a future with somebody. I'd like to be married again eventually. I want those things. That's who I am, and I don't want to have fun forever. So once I started focusing on that, it was really where the universe was like, "Well, here's all these little dates," and I figured out what I wanted and what I didn't want it, and I got really lucky that one of those boys right now is working out.
Hey, that's exciting.
We'll see.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I think a good realization too. Like who knows? Things can change always, but the fact that you're being like open-minded and realizing like what it is that you want is amazing.
Oh yeah, and I'm like the with dating, and I hope everyone asks themselves this question when they're dating. But the thing that really changed it for me was, do you like them or do you just like that they like you? And I had to ask myself that
Mhm.
question a lot. I ended a couple things because I was like, oh, I don't really like this person. I just like that they like me.
Yep.
And it sucked because, again, people pleasing and then just like my insecurities will like sort of try to lead the way in dating as well. So
Yeah.
I hope that like people who are listening to this remind yourself like not to do that. Focus on what you like about them. You have so much to bring to the table. Of course they're gonna like you. Just make sure that they're good for you and they're what you want as well.
Yeah, totally. I think my dating life was like early in my life, but I was always wanting attention. I wanted somebody to want me. I didn't even know what I wanted.
Exactly. Oh my god. I did
What a
not
good realization.
I moved out in October of last year and I thought that I was ready to date in like December right after. And I tried. And I was like, no, 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 no. I like backtracked so quickly. I was like, I ended up dating a guy for a few weeks and I was like, casually, of course, but I remember coming out of that like, oh, I'm with this person to fill a void to because I like the way he treats me. I like the attention.
Yep.
Don't really like him though. Let me figure out what I want. Let me take some more time to heal,
Mhm.
and then I'll know when it's the right time. And the right time came about a couple months ago, and I was again very lucky. These apps is it's all about timing.
Timing is everything.
Russian roulette out here. It's it's strange. Um, but the timing worked out right now, so I'm happy with it.
Yay! I'm so glad to hear that. Oh my gosh, I didn't know what you were gonna say to this question, so I'm very, very happy and
Asked
excited.
me like if this was like 2 weeks ago, I'd be singing a very different tune. I'm telling you right now.
Oh,
But this is very early on right now. It's good, so we'll see. And if it works out, I plan on talking about it. This is the other thing too. Like I don't know what to share online anymore. I
it's
shared,
hard. Yeah,
I shared my last relationship online, and now I'm like, there needs to be boundaries. But what is that going to look like in my next relationship? So this is the learning curve with content creation, as well as your life changes. Your
totally.
is going to as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for sharing with us, and we're all rooting for you. This is exciting. Oh my gosh. Can you share with us your best date since you've been dating?
Ooh.
Doesn't have to be with this person. It could be with anybody. Just best date overall.
Oh my gosh.
Because I've been very invested.
You know what's funny is I did another interview and it was an interview like a written interview and I told this story too. Um, my best dates, I think there are top two dates that I've had, two different
Okay.
people, but neither of them have been planned. They were like
Oh,
very out of because I going into this I was like, well, he has to plan the date or I have to say something or it's not going to go well. It needs to be. I was very like stressed out about things being organized and planned out because that's what the people say that should happen. Um, this guy just like I was seeing him casually. He was coming over like after work one day and I was like, well, let's grab food. I live in a small town and there's like this little French restaurant in town. Um, so we just like walked there. It was really cute. We had like a nice little meal. There was nobody in the restaurant.
oh,
He didn't really drink wine, so I like showed him like my favorite wine, and he like loved it. And it was like wine is very romantic. The restaurant was
it
very
is.
romantic. It was like good conversation. And then we walked back, and it like started raining, and it was so cute. Yeah, like it was
It's like
really.
from a movie.
It was like from a movie, and it
Oh
was
my
like
gosh.
it was the plan. I can't control the weather.
Oh,
Time it was cute. It was like it, just very a very uncontrolled environment, and I mean, it didn't work out with that guy, but it definitely taught me about just like sort of letting loose when it comes to dating and not expecting so much from people or from dates. Like
mm,
a date could be anything. A date could be that. It could be like going to a drive-through and having ice creams and you
yeah.
know talking on a car ride. It could be it's whatever you want it to be really.
Yeah, just time together.
Just time together, literally anything. And I'm so glad that I learned those lessons in dating, because if I had gone to a relationship so early on, I'd expect more.
Mm,
Not what you want. So I'm glad that I gave myself some time to like go through like all the good guys and the bad guys and go through these good and bad dates and
totally.
figure it out for myself, I guess.
That's awesome and so cute. What about worst date ever? Because I've had some really bad dates in my time.
Oh yeah. This is partially my fault. I should not have gone out with this guy. In hindsight, I say that, but he was older. I met him on Bumble, I think, on a dating app, and he he showed up first of all in like flip flops and like board shorts. I was looking at this man's toe
Oh, no.
on our date. He did not have an inside voice, and we were sitting inside.
Oh, no.
He didn't look like he took photos. I could tell after I met him. He took photos at a very certain angle, so he didn't look like his photos either.
Mm.
He had a lot to say about influencers.
Oh,
Yeah, which is, and he knew what I did for a living.
so weird.
It was so weird. And not great things to say about influencers either, which just rubbed me the wrong way, of course.
Yeah.
Um, it 5 minutes and I knew that there was not going to be a second date, but he kept talking and he would not stop talking.
Oh my God.
So we're 2 beers and 2 hours in, and I'm like, I need to make an excuse to go. So like I was like, I gotta go feed my dog. Uh, my cousin like was making fun of me after. She's like, "You don't have an escape route for dates?" And I was like, "No, is that a thing?"
Oh my God.
Like 5 minutes into every date, you get your best friend to call you just in case. Oh, that's brilliant! I could have used that. The recovering people pleaser in me could have used that. Like
Yeah.
I needed to start implementing escape routes for dates, but
Oh my gosh.
it was a personality, and and then he tried to kiss me outside of the bar, like on the
Oh.
street. It was weird, and I like ducked.
Stop. Oh no. Oh no.
I ducked. I straight up ducked, and I would never want to be that rude. But there was people around. It was strange. I don't
So bad.
so bad, so uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh. Well, at least that's over.
It's over. I learned my lesson. Guys with more than one angle in photos, and
Necessary now.
maybe some voice notes at first as well. More
The
instant
the
voice.
no inside voice just gets me. That's so funny.
Oh my god.
What is a piece of advice you could give someone for dating after divorce?
Oh.
Because
Uh,
that might feel like, difficult. If you've been in this committed relationship for a long time, you haven't really been doing that. I can't even imagine how you'd go about navigating that.
this is not gonna be for everybody, but I would recommend having a time where you're not dating,
Hmm.
like, at all, whether it's a month. Take the time for yourself, though,
Yeah,
um, because I didn't do that at first, and I wish I did. I was in a very bad place, and I just wish I took that time a little bit more. I took the time later on, and I figured some stuff out, but, um, right when you move out, like, take some time for yourself, or else
yeah,
I feel like what's gonna happen is if you do find somebody very quickly, it's gonna be like a rebound, or you're gonna end up taking them for granted. It just
totally.
it's not gonna feel good for either person. Also, when you're going into dating post-divorce, my recommendation, and people have asked me this too, they asked me if I, like, tell people that I am in the process of a divorce, and I'm like, "Yeah." That's the first thing I tell people. Like, and I've met most of these men through dating apps. Um, it's like the second conversation I have with them.
Yeah,
99, actually no, 100% of people have never had a problem with it. So don't be afraid to be honest, and just take your time, like dip your toes into the water and see when and what feels right for you.
love that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing. To end, I usually do some rapid fire. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, go to coffee order.
Oh, a caramel crunch frappuccino made with coffee and almond and oat milk at Starbucks.
Oh, I'm trying that.
I don't drink a lot of coffee, so it has like the right amount of caffeine, and it
Mm,
tastes like caramel. It's so good.
that sounds bomb. Dream travel destination.
Ooh. Two very different places, but it's like a tie between Italy and Thailand.
Oh, beautiful. Favorite reality TV show?
Ooh, I just do the dating shows count?
Yeah.
Love Island. I just got into it.
Amazing. The best.
It's okay.
Must have beauty product.
The Supergoop Unseen Sunscreen,
Love it, actually.
especially like for all skin type. It's literally unseen. It's amazing.
So good. And morning or night person?
I'm a night person. I'm a night
Me
owl.
too.
Yeah.
Me too. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I had the best time with you. Where can people find you and connect with you?
On Instagram mainly, I'm in my stories and on there a lot at Brynstagram, BrynTstagram. TikTok, Brynta Ponn, and YouTube. I'm bringing that back now.
Yay.
We're doing vlogs. We're doing literally everything, long form, everything on there. So at Brynta Ponn as well on there.
Amazing. Well, thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
The best.
Yay.